Okay, well, I think we've been waiting for too long and we should start immediately. I want to thank you for your patience and for standing up to my lies that I said I will have seats for you. I'm sorry for the people who are standing up. Can you hear me back there? Good evening, my name is Munter Fahmy, and I'm the bookseller here at the American Colony Hotel, who has made it my mission in life to bring you the most interesting people to discuss their ideas and books.
Thank you, Edon, for your pessimistic scenario that I must continue. Well, basically I agree with Gideon for the political analysis he made, but this is, I will detach myself from this atmosphere of pessimism or optimism, because I think we must struggle, and this is what we are doing, and we don't ask, it is wrong, I think, to ask ourselves every day whether we are far away from the aim or the end of the struggle, or whether we are close to it. We just, I think the more appropriate question is whether we are on the right direction or on the wrong direction. And when I ask myself when I say we, I am talking about also the Palestinians inside Israel, whom Gideon didn't mention. Also this side of the story and this side of the struggle, which is happening now, which is taking place inside Israel, in my homeland, as part of the Palestinian people. And I don't define my struggle just as a struggle against occupation, because the Palestinian cause didn't start in 1967, it started in 1948, started when Israel also expelled 85% of my people, and I am one of the fourth generation, which now, within this pessimistic scenario which Gideon has portrayed, I represent a social program of state for all of its citizens. It is not enough for me to end the occupation in 1967. It is not enough for me as a Palestinian, as native, who were here before the establishment of Israel. It is not enough to talk about occupation in 1967. It is not enough for me to talk about Judaizing Jerusalem and about the siege of Gaza. For me, if we need to create, before ending occupation, or in order to end occupation, we need to create the appropriate infrastructure for this. And to create an infrastructure for this, we must talk about 1948. And why this is important? Not in order to make the struggle more difficult and to make the situation more difficult, but I think this is very important to emphasize to the Israelis that while we are talking about ending occupation in 1967, we are making a huge compromise as Palestinians. Because if I started to talk about occupation in 1967, then they will start to talk, but we will keep the settlements, we will keep Kiryat Ata, we will keep the blocks. Yeah? And then we will have another 20% for the 22%, and we must confiscate this land, which is now 40 or 60% of Zone C, and etc. and etc. And we will, when we start to talk about 1967, then we will go back to this terminology of two sides, not of occupier and of occupied. As a Palestinian inside Israel, I believe for justice and equality for everyone. And I don't care about two states or one state. For me, it is a political settlement, it's a political arrangement. I care about values. For me, as the fourth generations after Israel has expelled 85%, I offer a democratic vision to get on, not just to those who are in the Knesset who don't want to hear me and who call me a terrorist. I want also get on to talk about state for all of citizens. I want also the left wing in Israel not to marginalize that the problem didn't start in 1967 and that, yes, Israel has normalized with this situation of occupation, but it also has normalized with this perception of Israel as a Jewish state. And when they say to me it's a Jewish state, we have just one meaning for a Jewish state. A state which gives privileges to the Jewish citizens on the expense of the Palestinian citizen. I cannot study my history in the Arab schools within Israel. When in Israel say Palestinians, they mean the Palestinians in the West Bank and Gaza Strip. For me, I'm not allowed even to defend myself as Palestinian inside the Knesset. I must say Arab Israelis or non-Jew or a Muslim. So this is, for me, it is a more complicated and difficult problem. Also to talk about occupation. Also to talk about the siege upon Gaza. Also to talk about the right of return to my people. And also to talk about the, not just policies, not just occupation, but the definition of the state. Now it's more complicated to talk about the definition of the state, and I cannot struggle for democracy without talking about the Jewish state. I cannot. Because whenever they pass a racist law in the Knesset, they justify this law by saying, but we are a Jewish state. When they confiscate the land now, 800,000 dunums in the Negev, and expelling another 30,000 Palestinians in the Negev, they can justify by saying, we want to develop the area. And this is not the land of the Palestinians, this is the land of the state. And I cannot defend or struggle against the law by not mentioning that these were before the establishment of Israel. These Bedouins, these Arabs were before 1948. Even if they don't have a taboo, even if they don't have a written document, Israel must recognize the land as their land. When I want to demand to study my history in the schools, I cannot do so by not demanding to study the Nakba and what happened in 1948. And that Israel has demolished and destroyed more than 570 cities and villages in 1948. And this is not a history for me, because till now Israel is confiscating my land in Nazareth, in Tarshiha, in al-Fahim, in the Triangle, and in the Negev. It's for me not a nostalgia to the history, and not I want just for a symbolic reason. For me, it's very crucial in order to create this vision for equality to all. Even when we don't want to marginalize the history and we don't agree of rewriting history and rewriting geography, it is for the sake of the future, it is for the sake of offering also the Jewish citizens, also the Palestinian citizens, a true vision of democracy. And the only vision of democracy that I can know is full equality. Also civic equality, but also national equality. And this shifting of the Israeli, and I agree with Gideon that there is no middle, there is no center in the Knesset. If Lieberman talked about no citizenship without loyalty, it was Lapid who talked about no political partnership without loyalty when he said no to Zoabis. He said the same as Lieberman. He said no political role for Zoabis, to exclude Zoabis from the scene. And what Zoabi is a symbol for the citizens who are not loyal to the system. So it's Lieberman, no citizenship without loyalty. It's the same, and maybe with a more developed racism. And this is his first sentence about coalition, and which give us notion about his political rule and give us notion that he is, in the political sense, he is a right wing. But when the Israeli public opinion has shifted, has shifted to the right, then maybe Labid can be the center, because the whole scenario, the whole scene has shifted to the right. And this is not the problem of the right wing. It is the problem also, where is the left? Where is the left who also marginalized himself? At least I have a voice in the Knesset, but I think if I don't represent Gideon, I want to represent also Gideon, but the left wing in the Israeli opinion don't have no representation in the Knesset, but I see myself and I perceive myself not as a representation, as a party who represents the Palestinian citizens, just the Palestinian citizens. I represent a notion of democracy, the notion of equality between the Jewish citizens and the Palestinian citizens. And yes, the problem of this campaign, campaign, was not that it was an extremist, that it didn't recognize the Palestinian rights on both sides of the Green Line, but it was neglecting the political agenda. There were no need, even no need to talk about occupation. This is the problem. That the Israeli society, when they want to list their problems, it is not on the list, the Palestinians. After the siege, and after the racist wall, and with the security coordination with the Palestinian Authority, they can manage occupation. They can manage with the occupation. Now it's an easy occupation, more easy than 10, 15, 20, 30 years ago. When occupation was a problem, now we have two problems. The first problem is that we have an occupation. The second problem is that the Israeli public opinion don't perceive it as a problem. It's nothing. They may talk about economic problems, about kindergartens, about the problems of the upper and middle class, but not about isolation in the international. This is just Livni who talks and Labid. Livni was talking about the isolation, but not just to embarrass Netanyahu government that your policies will isolate Israel. So this is the problem, that it is not part of the agenda. And the other problem which make it more difficult is what Gideon said. I'm sorry, I will repeat a lot of your ideas. The illusion of the negotiations. That now again and again we will enter this negotiation scenario, which will ease more and more to portray Israel as a partner. It is Israel who is not a partner. And yes, I want a government who it is very clear to the whole world that it is not a partner for any negotiation process or peace process. And I even hate this expression of peace process and negotiation process, because it is a substitute for peace, for justice. And we must look for another scenario. Okay, the government will not offer us anything new. Judaizing Jerusalem, it is a plan which Netanyahu will continue. But what is the alternative? I'm in the Knesset, I must search for alternative. I cannot be pessimistic, and I am not optimistic, but I cannot be also pessimistic. And the alternative is, again, it is not the internal dynamics. It is not allocated as an internal dynamics of the Israeli society. Israel must pay the price of occupation, as I say, every meeting, and it doesn't. And it doesn't because of us, not just because of the Israeli society and government and right wing and extremists and racism. It's because of us, the Palestinians. You must struggle. We must struggle. I don't know any people in the world who end their oppression without struggling. And I'm also a feminist. If I want equality with men, I want equality with men. And I see the feminist struggle with the Palestinian feminist struggle as part of our political struggle. We must struggle as women also. I cannot just convince the men to give me equality. I must do it by myself. Ending security coordination with the Israelis. To say that the Israelis are not partners and we don't want to negotiate. And to turn to the model of the Midan al-Tahrir, of the Egyptian and the Arab revolutions, massive protests, and civic disobedience. And again, to push the topic, the issue of occupation as part of the agenda. The Israeli public opinion cannot just sleep and wake up, as there is no occupation, as there is no Palestinians in the West Bank, and as there is no Palestinians inside Israel. And we exist just as a security threat inside Israel. We must redefine our national struggle as Palestinians. And we must stop this, and I don't care, we must also stop this debate whether one state or two states, and to put a target, ending occupation, to end occupation. And if you ask me, I don't really see a chance of two-state solution, and when I say two-state solution, I don't talk about two national states. I talk about two states who both are states for all of citizens. Both should be states for all of citizens. I don't talk about Jewish state, even when we talk about two states. It is not the two-state solution of Netanyahu. It is a democratic two-state solution with a total different features of Jewish state who exclude the Palestinians. And my part, and I'm a citizen, I'm also a Palestinian, but I'm a citizen. And we treat our citizenship very seriously. And we believe in the democratic tools. This is why we are in the Knesset. Even if they want to exclude us, I'm in the Knesset. But I have my own definition and perception of the state which I want to live in and which I struggle for. And this is a totally different state which all the Zionist parties in the Knesset are promoting. And I think, not just as a journalist, we should not go to the old terminology, which is the easy terminology of negotiation, but I think also we should talk about the Palestinians inside Israel. Because we think that without defining and analyzing this what's the meaning of this expression, of this entity as a Jewish state, we cannot reach a solution also. We are part of the Palestinian people, so we are part of the solution of the Palestinian cause. We as the 1,200,000 citizens who live in Israel. And for me, this is now a very far scenario, the scenario of the two states. And I think we should start talking about the scenario of one state solution with full equality for the Palestinian citizens and the Jewish citizens. A kind of binational state with full recognition of national, cultural, and religious rights for both people, the Palestinians and the Jewish people. For me as a citizen, my vision and my struggle is for civic and national rights inside Israel. Our role is to struggle against racism, to build not a coordination, more than a coordination with the left wing in Israel, more strategic cooperation with the non-Zionist left wing. And that's it, I think.